If you want to create memorable combat moments, you need to be putting your D&D players up against monsters they have no chance of surviving. Here's how you do it. I have a group of 6 players who are level 7 in my campaign for Keys to the Golden Vault. On the way to one of their missions, they were on a boat, and I thought, boy, wouldn't it be cool if they ran into something really monstrous out in the middle of the sea? So my mind went in a few different directions here. Kraken? Yeah, that could work. Sea dragon? Dragon turtle? What about like 2 storm giants? I used all of them. A good tip for approaching fights when you're creating combat encounters in Dungeons and Dragons isn't to think of it like, oh, here's the party and they have to fight a dragon and just mashing them together. Think about the circumstances that lead you to that point. So in the case of my party, what I had was that out on the horizon, they saw a storm that was kind of behaving really erratically. And even though they tried to avoid it because of a few unlucky rolls, they ended up going right into it as it dramatically shifted in their direction. That storm was caused by a storm giant on a sea dragon and a storm giant on a dragon turtle fighting against the Kraken. Now this creates a very interesting encounter dynamic because obviously the players don't want to fight those things. They're all extremely powerful, but they're also now sailing directly into them. So I had created a few small sort of chance mechanics and skill check mechanics on what happens when it comes to the top of the turn and they have to try and steer the ship around or try and get away in some regards. But also at the top of every round, I rolled on a table that had random things that might happen, like a cannon doesn't go off the way that they want it to, explodes, now there's a fire they have to deal with, or one of the mastheads cracks and begins to fall and they have to try and fix that. Not to mention the Kraken, sometimes, occasionally, a tentacle flopped up on deck and tried to grab one of the party members or one of the crewmates. Now this doesn't mean that they didn't get to attack some things too. A few young Krakens did wash up onto the deck that they had to contend with. But to make it just a little bit more interesting and to ensure that my players didn't get too bored waiting for their turn to come around with so many participants, I actually gave each of them one of the monster stat blocks and they got to control their characters and the monsters. Another important aspect of this particular scenario was also giving them time to roleplay with the crew before they got to this point, because then that way there was a little bit of emotional connection. So if the Kraken did grab one of them, or when like 5 crewmates got swept off of the ship and into the choppy waters, they had a sense of urgency and a want to save them as well. Let me know if you have any tips on how to put lower level players against higher level monsters and still have fun without just mercilessly slaughtering everyone. And don't forget to hit the follow button as well.